Caesar's ghost, Perry White. I am an unavowed, unembarrassed comic book geek. My mother made me give away a fortune in Golden Age comics, Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, Strange Tales, Mandrake the Magician. I have always been a comic book geek, and I will stay that way till the day I die. I absolutely love it. Yes! So here I am. I've been given the opportunity to introduce a man who doesn't need any. I mean, I don't know how easier this can get. This is a guy who has been around for at least a couple of generations, and he's not even that damn old. Well, maybe he is a little bit. But from the Twilight Zone, wasn't that an awesome episode? To Star Trek. And I gotta tell you, in all honesty, I did not discover Star Trek until I got out of the Army. I served over in Vietnam. I came home in 1969, and here was this phenomenon. This viewers telling the networks, get this program back on the air, damn it. And here was this Captain Kirk. And I discovered this man in a program that I started watching. I'm going, holy Jesus, Mary and Joseph. It's like this program is addressing social issues, political issues. It is putting it in a context that I had never seen before. And then there was T.J. Hooker. And we've come to the point of Priceline Negotiator. I have idolized this man for a very long time, and I'm not going to keep you waiting any longer. Ladies and gentlemen, William Shatner!
That's the longest introduction I have ever. I've got 5 minutes left to talk. All right, so this is a Comicon. I don't know whether you want to hear about Star Trek or my experience with comics or everything. No. That's chaos. This will never work. Have we got a device in which you can ask questions? Is that way we set that up? Is that set up? Good. Here's what I'd like to do then. I'd like to hear what you'd like to hear. So if somebody's got a microphone, ask me a question, and maybe I won't answer it. What's your question?
Hi.
Hi.
Over here on the left.
Right here, to the left. Go ahead. What's your question?
Can I have a hug?
No. If that's your question, pass the mic. What else you got? I need another question. I need a subject to dance on.
On that note then.
Yes.
I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
You're from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Yeah. And we twice have enjoyed the Milwaukee Ballet.
You've enjoyed the Milwaukee Ballet?
To actually a CD of your spoken.
And a CD of Gonzo Ballet.
And I'm wondering, did you even know that was going on? I mean,
Did I know that they were putting on a ballet of some songs I wrote?
Yeah.
Yes, I was dimly aware that a ballet company. I hate this mic. Is this on? Turn this on.
Yeah!
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Yes, I was dimly aware that an album that I wrote called, that I co-wrote, called Has Been, was on the market, and then I received a telephone call one afternoon, and a lady who turns out to be a great choreographer says, "I'm calling from the Milwaukee. I guess maybe that was it. The Milwaukee Ballet Company, and we would like to do some dancing to some of the songs you wrote. And would I do it?" And I was astounded, and of course I said yes, and that set into motion a ballet that was ultimately danced by the wonderful company up in Milwaukee, the Milwaukee Ballet Company. And what they did was choose 4 or 5 of the songs from Has Been. Now, Has Been was a result of the Transformed Man. The Transformed Man was years and years ago, long before any of you were born, going back into the mists of time. I did an album called The Transformed Man. One of the songs that seems to have remained in the public consciousness are songs like Mr. Tambourine Man and Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, all of which have been mocked and laughed at. But in some places, the more knowledgeable places, it wasn't mocked, and indeed some musicians liked it. So years later, my friend, who's the song? Who wrote the song with me? What? Ben Folds. That's what happens when you get past 40. I hate the distance between us all here. So Ben Folds calls me and wants me to do something on his album, and I do something on his album, and we become friends. Now, I'm in my office. There's 2 guys in front of me, and they're saying, "We'd like you to make another record." This is now years and years. This is 4 or 5 years ago. Years and years after The Transformed Man, and after the attention paid to songs like Mr. Tambourine Man and Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. And they say, "We want you to make another record." And these are the same guys that had pulled Tambourine Man and Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds out of that record and put it into one of their records, which Leonard Nimoy sang on as well. And it was Rhino Records, some mocking record of actors who think they can sing. And they're sitting in my office and saying, "We want you to make another record," and I know they want to continue the mockery, when the phone rings and it's Ben Folds. And he's like calling to be friendly. And I say to those guys, "Will you accept Ben Folds as the producer of this record you want me to make?" And they go, "Yes." And I say to Ben, "Will you produce a record for me?" And he says, "Yes." And the deal was set, and when I was able to talk to Ben a little more thoroughly, I said, "What are we going to do? What kind of a record can we make?" And he said, "Let's tell the truth." And so I sat down, wrote lyrics that were meaningful to me, he put them to music, and we put this record, Has Been, together, got great critical success, and now Milwaukee Ballet is saying we want to choreograph dance numbers to some of these songs. I flipped out. So months later, whoever thought was I aware of the Milwaukee Ballet. My wife and I are in the theater in Milwaukee, and they dance to a half a dozen numbers that I had written, and I had it filmed, and I didn't know why I was having it filmed. It just seemed to me like to be a good idea. Then put it together, edit it together, and it's finally a DVD called Gonzo Ballet, and it's the making of a ballet from songs that I wrote, and it's going to be on television in the fall. So, the concept of sort of stepping out and saying yes to things you might not say yes to, just on the adventure of it, became clear to me, and I've sort of tried to live that way, being adventuresome and chancing, making a total fool of yourself because of the adventure of it. Okay? Next question. Thanks. Yes.
My name's Shelley.
Hi, Shelley.
I have an acting question for you.
You have an acting question for me.
Over your career,
Yes.
you've played lots of different types of characters.
Different types.
Early on, it seemed like you played a lot of serious.
Serious. I was very serious.
And you are kind of a funny guy.
I'm funny.
You are funny. I wondered if you found one of them more enjoyable than the other, or if you thought it was somewhat freeing being able to be the funny guy that you are.
Here's the way I think about it. I think drama and comedy are the same thing. There's really very little difference. The drama you want to make as real as possible and make sure that the audience believes what you're saying, and that's of the utmost importance. And then comedy is the same thing, except there is an attitude. There's something infinitesimal, something ephemeral in the playing of comedy that says, just by attitude or tone, I'm not quite sure which, or if it's both, you're saying to the audience, I believe this is amusing. And then the audience says, oh, I believe this is amusing. And we now know that this is funny, but it's real. And you're not to, and whereas the drama, you're not to laugh at. Now, I've had occasions where I've been really real, and they laughed. Not a good thing. The opposite I've also had happen. I thought, this is funny, and they didn't laugh. So you tread a tightrope no matter what you're doing, but comedy and drama are essentially the same. There's an old saying that actors use frequently, and that is, the old actor is dying, and his loved one comes up to him and says, is it difficult? Are you having difficulty? And he says, no. Dying is easy. Comedy is hard. Next question.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Glenn Rhodes.
Where?
Over here.
Where? There. Okay, I got you.
I was just wondering if you could tell me if George Takei is a giving lover, and if...
Wait, what about George?
And the follow-up, do you know if he's in the rest?
Hold it. You gotta go back to that phrase again. The giving lover? Did you say giving lover?
Yes.
Okay, I got it. George Takei, the giving lover, yes.
The follow-up is, do you know if he likes guys with beards?
Do I like guys with beards?
No, not you.
Oh, does he like guys with beards? You want to make a date? Is that what you want me to do? Shot shotgun. I don't know about the George and the Giving Lover, but I can't figure George out. I mean, I'm as much mystified by all this as maybe you are. Maybe you know more than I am. I don't know what his beef is with me, really. Whenever I sort of try and find out, it has something to do with my not being on the airfield when the shuttle of the Enterprise was wheeled out, or so. I mean, it's bizarre. So I don't know what his problem is with me, except it seems to be getting worse. And I haven't seen him in 40 years. I mean, I don't get it. The ultimate moment of his perturbation with me was they did a roast, or we did a roast. So, you know, the difference between comedy and drama that we were talking about, everybody gets on, and it's funny. A roast is supposed to be funny, so they say, "You stink, Shatner." And everybody knows that's funny because I don't stink. So George is invited to do the roast and roast me. But George was deadly serious. And I rode in on a horse, okay? So the line, "Screw you," to put it politely, and the horse you rode in on, obviously is there. So the writers of the show are looking around, who will we give this great line to? So they give it to George. So George gets up on stage, and he says some other things, and finally he ends with, "Screw you and the horse you rode in on." I mean, he really meant it. His eyes were glittering with hatred. I don't know. I took 3 steps back. You know, the good lover. What did you say? The giving lover. I don't know. And does he like men with beards? I can't say. It's not that I won't say, I can't say. Okay. Who is that guy with slightly moist forehead up there? Okay, next question. Are we having fun now? Yes. I'm giving an idea of what you want to hear. All right, proceeding ahead, another question.
It's an honor to be speaking with William Tiberius Shatner.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you for the years of entertainment.
You're welcome.
Speaking, a question that kind of speaks to those years. I understand you were a understudy for Christopher Plummer.
That's true.
What was it like then getting to work with him in a more equal way for Undiscovered?
In the Undiscovered Country, yeah. It was great because being an understudy is a very inferior position. Chris Plummer, talking about Gonzo Ballet, I then proceeded to make another documentary called The Captains. And I went out, I went to Toronto, I went to Montreal, I went to London, I went to New York, I went to Princeton, and then ended up in Los Angeles. And what I was doing was interviewing all the captains and doing an in-depth interview of all of them, trying to find things that were common. Pretty good, huh? Things that were common between all of us. And I call it The Captains. It's being edited right now. And it'll be on the air, by the way, at the same time as Gonzo Ballet. So you'll have fun watching it. It's being fun put together, and it'll take another few months. I must have shot 30 hours. I got everybody. While I was interviewing people, I interviewed Chris Plummer, and Chris and I are about a year apart from Montreal. I believe I went to university, and he didn't. He became an actor right out of high school, I believe. And so I was a period of time behind him, as he climbed the ladder in Canada, ending up at Stratford, I was 3 or 4 years behind him, sort of following the same path. What a magnificent actor, what a magnificent, wonderful guy he is. So I interviewed him, and I interviewed him for a couple of hours, and I have enough material to put a show together that I'm going to call Still Kicking Butt. And so that's Chris and I. And I interviewed him at Stratford, Ontario, where he played when I was there, the 3 years when the theater opened, and then has continued to play there over the years many times. In fact, last year he was there, and that's why I took the opportunity to interview him there. And I reminisced with him this moment in my life that was so dramatic that when I look back on it, it's like falling off a precipice and wondering what's going to happen. And here's what happened. At Stratford, we would open a play, say in June or July. And then for the next 3 weeks, while we played that play at night, we would rehearse another Shakespearean play, and 3 or 4 weeks later, open that play. So that would say a month later, June and July, we'd open another play. Then in August, we'd open the third play. And we'd then play those in rotation. And then in August through to September, they would traditionally have rehearsals for the people who were standing in, who were understudies. Sometime in June, when we opened King Henry V, one of the longest male parts in the English language, and I was assigned Chris Plummer's role as an understudy. So I understudied Henry V. And but we were 2 months away from any rehearsal, and we were about 3 or 4 weeks into the play when Chris got sick for one night. It turned out I had never spoken the words out loud of Henry V. I had never walked the part, let alone rehearsed the part. I didn't even know some of the actors who were there, because we're always so busy that it took time to meet everybody and get to know them. And somebody comes running up to me, somebody in management comes running up to me that afternoon and says, "Chris Plummer is ill. Can you go on tonight in Henry V?" Are you kidding me? I don't even know the name of the lady I'm going to play. I haven't even met her. How can I go on? They said, "You're right." I said, "Wait a minute." I don't know what stupidity, what sheer arrogance. How could I believe that I could carry out a performance in front of an audience about your size in a part I had never played before, in one of the longest speaking roles in the English language that I had only rehearsed in my bathroom? The only place I could yell, "Once more onto the breach, dear friends," was in my bathroom. I'd yell, "Once more onto the breach, dear friends," and people would say, "Flush the toilet." The ignorance was really what it was on my part, was astonishing. That night, I slipped into his clothes and they fitted me fairly well. I didn't know very many of his moves. I had sat while he rehearsed and played it, but it wasn't the first thing on my mind. I go on in a thrust stage that would have extended out to here, meaning there was nobody in the wings who could yell, "Once more onto the breach." You know, they couldn't yell my lines to me. To make a long story short, I got through it, and the audience arose, and the cast turned in, and everybody applauded. It was big time. It was a huge moment in my life, and when I look back on it, it was like staring death in the face. And then Chris wrote a book about the incident, and he said, and in his book he says, I knew Shatner would be a star because he did everything his own way. Where I sat, he stood. Where I stood, he sat. And we all knew he'd be a star because he was doing it his own way. I never told him. I didn't know whether to stand or sit. So all these years later, we do whatever Star Trek that was, and here comes my old pal, Chris Plummer, and now I'm Captain Kirk and he is the guy with the omelet on his head. And it was perfect. So we talk about that in this interview that I hope I'll be able to put on the air, and maybe you'll all see it. Thank you. Next question.
So you just mentioned staring death in the face.
Yes.
So that's kind of a good segue to the question that I had.
Oh, good. You needed one today.
No, not really. It would have worked out either way.
I would have figured it.
So, you know, looking back, I wasn't a big fan of the Generations movie, and that's okay.
Neither was I.
So that's kind of where I was going with that.
Me too.
Did you feel cheated, in terms of not having that whole experience and Captain Kirk biting it on your own movie versus having that happen in kind of a cast-off fashion?
In what fashion?
Cast-off.
Cast-off. Oh. Okay, you mean the cast was off, or no? The death of Captain Kirk. Yeah. Well, here's the. That's called denial. Here's what happened. We made 6 films, and they made approximately $100 million each. They spent approximately $35 million on making it. So the multiple in movies is 3 times. That's about what it reached. So everybody made a little bit of money on the Star Trek movies, the franchise that I was in. But by that time, the Next Generation was doing very well on television. So the people, management at Paramount figured, well, if Next Generation is doing well, they should do well in movies. Let's make movies with that cast, and it'll make more money. So they came to me and said, we're going to kill Captain Kirk and put the Next Generation cast in making films. And if you would like to, we'd love for you to play the death of Captain Kirk. But if you don't, we'll figure another way and just get on with the fact that that the Next Generation is more popular now than your series was. So I realized that I had to do something, and I thought I'll do it. By the way, they asked Leonard to be in it, and Leonard turned it down for that very reason. I decided I'd go with it, and they wrote an ending in which Captain Kirk gets shot in the back. Yeah. Boo is good. Boo is good. I read it, and I thought, well, whatever you said is good, I'm sure. I read it, and I thought, I can make this work. And the reason I thought I could make it work was this. A year or 2 before, I was riding a young horse in a competition. And the horse saw something that I didn't see, reared up in the air, and then fell backwards. Literally flipped backwards. That sometimes happens, and usually it's fatal, either for the rider or the horse or both. And I am looking at this horse coming back over on me, thinking, this is either fatal for me or the horse, or both. At the last minute, the horse twists to the side, lands on my leg, and sort of, I didn't know at the time, I thought crushed my leg. And then it scrambles off and I'm lying on the ground. You may have noticed I'm a type A personality. That may have occurred to you over the years. It's true. Type O blood, type A personality. So I tried to get up, and I fell down. I thought, I gotta get up. Fell down. Up, down, until somebody sat on my head and said, don't get up. And I said, okay. Then they said, call for an ambulance. And I said, don't call for an ambulance. And they said, you may be bleeding inside. And I said, call for an ambulance. So they called for an ambulance, and they put me in the gurney, and into the ambulance, and through the streets of Louisville, Kentucky, careening around in all the Rescue 911s that I have done. The gurney's tied down. The doctors are soothing your fevered brow. It's all right, Mr. Shatner. Nothing's going to be. You're not in any danger. It's all right. Don't worry. None of that happened here. The gurney was loose, and both guys were in the front, and I'm slamming against the sides of the flip. And finally, they get me to Humana Hospital there. Doctors are out there taking a smoke because it's Kentucky. It's a tobacco place. And they say, look, there's Shatner shooting another Rescue 911. I'm dying! So they take me in, and they examine me, and I can't walk. The doctor finally pulls the curtains around the emergency bed, and he says, here, pee into this bottle. Actually, he said, go to the men's room and pee into the bottle. I said, if I could go to the men's room, I wouldn't be here. Doctor, he says, all right, here's the bottle. So he leaves, and now I'm trying to pee into the bottle. Curtain opens up, and a beautiful nurse is standing there. And she says, I'm your biggest fan. I said, of course. Now, why was I telling you this story? What was the question? I got so intrigued by the answer.
You were leading into why you decided to go with Generations.
So, I know. I carry him everywhere I go. Any audience over 500 people, he's with me. I know how to play standing up and falling down, standing up and falling down. So, what's his face shoots me in the back, and I drop down, and I stand up, and I drop down, and drop down, and I stand up. Patrick comes over, he says he's dying, and it died, and I died. And that's the end of it. All right, I've done the best I could. If they're going to kill me anyway, good luck to the next generation. And we're in the hottest place in the world. Something on fire of whatever it was. It was in Nevada. It was very hot. And we're glad to get out of there. That's it. I'm out of here. And I'm out of there. 4 or 5 weeks later, I get a phone call. You know, the ending needs a little work. We got to reshoot the ending and give Captain Kirk more nobility. Okay. So we go back to the Desert of Fire, or whatever it was. It's even hotter now. We got to get out of there. And they built a big bridge, and the bridge falls down, and Patrick's going to go, and I haul Patrick back, and I fall down, and then I fall down. One of the greatest lines in the world occurred to me at that moment. I had always said, Captain on the bridge, Captain Kirk. When this scaffolding fell down on top of me, I wanted to say, bridge on the captain. You see, this whole evening is a discussion of comedy and drama. So they wouldn't let me say it. I actually suggested saying that. And the director went, Are you crazy? And Patrick said, yes, he is. So that was the ending and the death of Captain Kirk. Not exactly, I wanted trumpets and timpanis. And they gave me violins. But that was the death of Captain Kirk, and I had to go along with it. And then the cudgels were taken up by the next generation. Thank you.
Mr. Shatner.
Yes.
We touched upon your career as a recording artist earlier, and so a lot of that is like really well known for your covers. Common People, Mr. Tambourine Man, Rocket Man. So what I want to know
Yes, what do you want to know?
is, has there been a song that you've really wanted to cover that you haven't been able to record, and are you planning to record any more songs in the future?
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay.
Are there any?
Next
Can
question.
you name one? Just one.
I'm telling you, I am about to present to you in the fall. I was on the late night show, Craig Ferguson. Why are you cheering Craig Ferguson? I'm on the show with Craig Ferguson. He says, what are you doing? And I said, I'm making this record. And I'm in the middle of making the record. And he says, what's the record? He says, well, you know the song, David Bowie song, Major Tom, what's it called? Yeah, Space Odyssey. Okay, Oddity. Space Oddity, that's me. Space Odyssey, right? Okay. So the Major Tom, he keeps calling for Major Tom. Are you there, Major Tom? Are you there, Major Tom? What happened to Major Tom? He steps out of the capsule, and then they're lost. They don't know where he is. There are a half a dozen songs that have the name Major Tom in it, sort of science fiction songs. And I sort of saw them all spread out before me. And the idea of Major Tom being lost in space and seeing space out there outside the capsule for the first time, and then beginning to die, and beginning to remember what his life was, and who his wife was, and she did it with me in science. What did she do with me in science? She blinded me with science. And then imagining the Twilight Zone, and then even getting to Bohemian Rhapsody, Brian Mays and his guitars playing, and the whole arc of cover songs which delineate what happened to Major Tom. I'm saying this to Craig Ferguson, who says, Bill, that might be ill-advised. I said, hey, everything's ill-advised until you do it, and I hope it's not. So yes, I am in the middle of making this rock opera, if you will, of Major Tom, which in the fall I'll have for you, and you'll tell me whether it is ill-advised or not. I'm having so much fun, you cannot believe it. I don't know whether this is the audience for heavy metal music. Zakk Wylde, Black Sabbath, Iron Man. I'm doing it! And so is he. He's laying down the track. I spent the day with Zakk Wylde, with his guitar genius, going. And while he's doing it, he's looking at a basketball game. It's the greatest, and this is happening. Great musicians are coming in to play. Brad Paisley is doing a guitar solo. Bizarre. Next question.
First off, I just want to say thanks for the memory, Big Willie. It's Big Brain.
Big Willie.
Big Willie. It's been a while since I heard that.
Do you know my wife? Luckily, she's not here. Okay.
All right. So,
And nobody tell her now.
a few years ago, you had a cameo on a movie called Fanboys.
I don't think of it as a cameo.
Okay, well,
I played the lead in Fanboy.
And in this film, and I know a lot of people here remember that line, you said, when they asked you, where'd you get the plans for the Skywalker Ranch, you said, I am William Shatner, I can score anything.
I said I could score anything?
That is correct, sir. So my question
Not in Seattle.
So my question is, without incriminating yourself too much, can you tell us the wildest, awesomest thing that you scored in your time as the man?
Well, I wrote a guitar solo for a number that I thought I scored very well. What did I score? I gotta do better than that. Well, you know, over my life, the Negotiator has operated. Golly, I wish I could think of something that was bizarre and humorous and funny, but this might have happened to me. I'm not sure whether it did or not. There's something very weird. I may have told this story so often I think it's happened to me. I was in a hotel room and I left to eat dinner, and when I came back, somebody had gotten into my hotel room and stolen my underwear. And I needed my underwear. Then the phone rang, and it was a girl's voice saying, I'm down in the lobby, and I've got your underwear. I said, I gotta have my underwear, please. She said, I'll bring it up if you'll sign it. So she brought it up. She knocked on the door, and I knew this was trouble. So I opened the door very slightly. I said, give me my underwear. She said, well, sign mine. I said, all right, hand it through the door. She says, no, it's on. So I signed her underwear and got my underwear back, because that's called scoring, you know. Next question, please make it more pleasant.
Okay, my name is Dean, and
Dane?
Dean.
Dean.
Yes. Actually, yesterday I saw that Twilight Zone where you were on the plane and the gremlin was tearing it up.
Yeah.
I noticed you also have you have a movie where you're on a plane and you're a drunken priest and there's druidic stones freezing the plane. What is it that planes have against you?
I fly. When I've scored, I fly. I'm actually an amateur pilot. I'm not current, but I was checked out to 180s, I think, Cessnas, and sailplanes, and even a pit special for aerobatics. So I know how, even without too much practice right now, I could loop an airplane. I could do, I think it's called a Dutch roll. There are a lot of things I can do aerobatically on an airplane. Entry speed, exit and all that kind of thing. Watching the horizon with your wings is... I was taught down in Florida by a military instructor who kept cursing me. God damn it, Shatner! Sir, don't you understand I'm a star? So he taught me. And this pit special, which is bi-wing, is a tail dragger. I had only flown Cessnas, which land so you can see the runway. Tail dragger. You're coming in for a landing, and you're like this, and the runway disappears. You can't see the runway. You can only guess where the runway is until you look over the side. Oh, there's the runway. I'm on the runway. I think I'll land now. That takes a little practice. I had a week with this guy who flooded me with emotion, like Kill. So finally, I started on Monday, and Saturday evening, I'm doing this for a film, a documentary film. I mean, I had to do it. So I said to the guy, you gotta let me solo, otherwise this whole thing's not gonna work. He said, well, I don't know. He said, all right, now when you land, remember, when you land, pull that stick back, because these planes will loop, ground loop. So make sure, because I don't know. I let me go. So now to get the most dramatic moment, the sun, we took off late in the afternoon. The sun is like on the rim there, getting ready to set. And people on the ground are watching me, and there's a follow plane that I lost. I don't know what happened to him. So now I'm coming in I do the loops and do the thing, and now I'm coming in for the landing for the first time. I'm solo for the first time, on camera. Why do I do these things? I don't know why I do these things. Now I'm coming in for a landing. Oh, and he said, remember, if you can't see, if you feel uneasy, abort and just go around again. Okay. I'm coming in, and I got the stick there, and I lift the nose up to drain off flying speed, and the nose lifts up, and of course, you can't see the runway. The sun's setting a little bit more there. Coming in for a landing, oh, no, where's the, what happened to the runway? And I yank on the throttle and go around. I look at all the people, and I can see the people down below going, oh, shit. I go around twice. Third time, the sun has set. This is like it. I have to land the airplane. I'm looking over the side for the runway. I think I see something gray. I'm not sure it's the runway or not. But I gotta land because the sun is set. I put it down, lands on all three wheels, and pull the stick back so I don't ground loop. I come to a stop. I love airplanes. Airplanes and I get along beautifully. Except, I never want to do an aerobatic thing ever again. So I'm cool with airplanes. When the scripts come by, that's their problem. I get out of that though. Perfect. Okay. Good enough.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next question.
What was your favorite alien species in Star Trek?
This girl with green. Talk about scoring. I didn't, because the green came off. Now, the special effects were so bad in Star Trek that you had to suspend disbelief to a larger degree than we could ask you. When you look back, you realize that for Star Trek, it wasn't the alien with the pulsing head or the weird things that science fiction writers think of. It was the drama between the characters and the excitement of the story. And the special effects, like the guy in the wing, the little furry guy in the wing, or the alien monster of the week, really wasn't the important thing. What was important was the humanity of those shows. And